Advent is drawing to its conclusion for this year as we approach the fulfilment of the promise that God will be amongst us to bring salvation to a broken world. Advent, from the Latin towards the coming or towards the arrival. Like all longed for events in life, the more we are prepared, the more that event is likely to live up to its promise. The more we put into the preparation, the more we gain from its fulfilment. That's not just a truism about Advent, but about the whole of life. Having said that, there has to be a but. True, Advent does simply mean towards the coming. But as I reflect on that simple linguistic meaning, it feels as if I'm demeaning the significance of Advent. It isn't just that we're looking towards the coming. It is that we are preparing for the fulfilment of promises that have been passed down through centuries, no, millennia. Promises made by a true and faithful God. Promises more often misunderstood than accepted for their power and authority. Promises more frequently twisted to the personal advantage of those holding on to power who should have known better. And despite our attempts to ignore and change the meaning of these promises, they are promises made by the faithful God, who is full of truth and integrity and honour. I wonder if I'm still belittling Advent's meaning by reducing it to the notion that it is about the fulfilment of promises. After all, our life experience is one filled with broken or vain promises. Sometimes they're throwaway remarks dressed up as promises to avoid taking tricky decisions or having difficult but honest conversations. The very word promise is tainted by our experience. And when we apply it to the mystery, the wonder, the life-changing impact of God's promises, it is too easy for us to miss its true nature. Advent means so much more than we can ever fathom by using human imagery or understanding. There is a word, it appears in just one hymn that I'm aware of, ineffable, to describe this dilemma we face. It means something that is incapable of being adequately expressed in words. Something so sublime and beyond our imagination that we struggle to express the feelings and emotions that are generated. Advent, true Advent, embraces the ineffable nature of God and all of his promises. And at the heart of those promises that exceed our ability to understand sits the hopefulness generated and inspired deep down within our spirits. So our preparation in Advent must fill us with an unchallengeable, undiminishable sense of hope and peace, created by the inevitability that God's promises are about to be fulfilled once and for all time. With that as our goal for this final week of Advent, I think I'm in danger of feeling a little bit anxious about how and whether it is truly achievable. I say that because more than ever before, I find that I am living in a world determined to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory as we are bombarded by messages apparently designed to sap our spirit of all that is. A world in which it feels as if we've been drawn towards failure. A world whose cacophony feels as if it's encouraging us to give up hope. A world in which our resilience and resourcefulness is being drained from us. When we're encouraged to think about an off day as the sign of the next doom-laden crisis. A polarised society drawing us from one extreme to another, like riding on a roller coaster, swinging from the highs to the lows and back again. A roller coaster full of adrenaline, but devoid of any purpose. It only ever returns us to where we start. Our news presenters open the majority of interviews with the question, how worried are you? Priming us all to expect bad news at every turn. Just when did we replace a spirit of agency with one encouraging despair? More importantly, how do we recover that sense of agency and spirit? When did we allow ourselves to be browbeaten into abandoning the lofty ambition and the hunger for new adventure and discovery? When did we allow our conversations to focus on life's daily grind, rather than the inspiration of the new wonders that we will be experiencing today just round the corner? When did meaningful purpose give way to apathy? How can we turn all of that mood around? In our Old Testament reading set for today, God is speaking to Ahaz, king of Judah, who is being threatened by the surrounding armies of Israel and Aram that have joined together. The odds look as if they're stacked against Ahaz and the people of Judah. They're fearful, they're scared of what will happen. And God tells Ahaz that despite appearances, both the kings of Aram and Israel are weak, and nothing is going to happen if only Ahaz takes notice of what God is telling him. And Ahaz declines to listen to God, and would rather listen to the voices of despair and defeat. Isaiah is told to go and shake some sense and some hope and some backbone into Ahaz. And he responds that he's not prepared to listen to the voice of God. Through Isaiah, God promises the gift of a baby who will be called Emmanuel. God is with us. God is declaring that the power of misdirected human power and might will be as nothing compared with the power of love and obedience that will be present even in the vulnerability of that newborn child. Now turning to the Gospel reading of the announcement of the coming Emmanuel, we might be more familiar with the way Luke tells the story. Writing to the Greeks, his story focuses on Mary and the obedience and love demonstrated in the words of the Magnificat. My soul glorifies the Lord. But remember, Matthew writes to the Jews. The essence of his story is the fulfillment of God's promises echoed by prophets down the ages. For them, it's important that fulfillment of those prophecies is demonstrated through the male line. All his attention is on Joseph. Joseph, devastated by the unfaithfulness of his betrothed, mourning the loss forever of his soulmate, fearful of the opprobrium and attack from all his friends and family, but still, despite everything, deeply in love with Mary, so that despite it all, he will protect her at all costs. Joseph must feel as if he's in a similar corner to Ahaz, under threat all round. Unlike Ahaz, when God speaks to him and makes incredulous promises, Joseph chooses to believe that the impossible can happen. The shame and pain that he was anticipating was wiped away by his belief and his obedience to God. Hope was restored despite the apparently hopeless situation. What does that mean for us today as we are confronted by overwhelming forces threatening to fill us with fear and dread for the future? Are we going to stop listening to the promises of God like Ahaz did? Or are we going to hold on to that hope, however unbelievable it might seem, just as Joseph did? And if we take the latter course, we will discover afresh in this Advent run up to the Incarnation that the power of vulnerable love will transform a despairing world into one of glorious peace and promise. Paraphrasing the words of Joshua, as for me, I will serve and believe the Lord, a Lord whose promises are so full of hope, despite whatever the world might throw at us. May God, the ineffable God, fill you and me with the spirit and power of hopefulness as he brings light into the dark world this Christmas. Amen.